Hi, Jesse Williams, Combine Product Specialist for Case IH, and we're working on our 8230 here on the farm today, and we're going to go through and calibrate our sieves. So that's an important thing to do on a yearly basis to make sure that what that display is showing for sieve opening is what the sieves are actually open to. So we've got our sieve gauge that we're going to use to do that. These are available through our dealerships. They can get them through our document management center for a couple of dollars a piece. Part number is PM-15496, and it's a handy tool that gives you a metric measuring stick on this side in millimeters, and then it gives us on this side in millimeters our different steps. So if I take a look at it this way, I've got a 9 millimeter step right here, got an 11 millimeter here. If I turn it, there's my 6 millimeter step right here on this side for calibrating those sieves. So when we calibrate our sieves, it tells us in the display or in the operator's manual to close that sieve all the way down, open it back up to 6 millimeters, and then we go in the cab and calibrate it. So the important part there is that we close it all the way down first. That way we're opening it up as we go to 6 millimeters. We're taking any slack out of the linkage as we open the sieve up. That's going to ensure that when the grain hits the sieve, there's not any slack in the linkage that's going to close it down. So I've got my thumb switches on the side over here. And if the key is off on the machine on these 30 series and newer machines, you just hold the button until the controllers wake up. So I've closed it all the way down. I'm going to take my 6 millimeter step right here, hold my finger on it, and then I'm just going to sit here and bump it to open my sieves up. Until I can just slide that 6 millimeter step in. Now on your flagship machines, you got a right and a left sieve, so we want to check both sides and make sure we're at that 6 millimeters. And particularly on an older machine, just kind of spot check it around 2 or 3 places. Make sure your average opening is pretty close to that 6 millimeters. You can get some flexing in those slats over time with the older machines. But if you're pretty close overall, that's going to give you a machine that's going to run good in the field for you. So we're going to do that on the top. We're going to pop our door open under here, reach underneath and do it on the bottom sieve as well. So once we've set our sieve at 6 millimeters, we're going to come into our calibration tab, select our drop down, and we're going to calibrate our upper sieve. And it gives us our instructions there: threshing system off, close the sieve completely, open it up again to 6 millimeters or 1/4 of an inch. So hit OK, and that's a pretty quick calibration. It just calibrates that sieve to that 6 millimeters for us. Now when I adjust that upper sieve, I should see, if I go back there and I double check my setting, that I'm pretty close to what it's showing in the cab for me. Another thing we want to calibrate with our sieves is our pre-sieve adjustment back here. So on our model year 240 and older machines, prior to the 250 series where we went to the option of in-cab pre-sieve adjustment, we had the handle, it's got the latch on it, and it's got the notches back here. Now, a lot of times when I talk to customers and we're talking about cleaning system issues or performance issues, and I ask them where their pre-sieve is set, they'll tell me what notch it's in. So for corn, a lot of times I'll hear it's in the 4th notch. And when I ask what's it actually open to, if you crawl inside the machine and look, a lot of times they really don't know. So we want to calibrate this to something that means something to us. Now, depending on what you have for a pre-sieve in there, you may calibrate it different ways. So the guys I've talked to that do a lot of wheat, they run the 1/8" pre-sieve, and they want a minimum opening on that pre-sieve of about 1/8 of an inch. We don't want to close it all the way down flat because we lose that edge to walk that grain to the back of the machine if we close it flat. So we will typically set our minimum to 1/8 of an inch. So in that case, we would loosen the bolt off, we'd close it all the way down, we would adjust the first notch to 1/8 of an inch. Now for most of the corn bean guys, we run the 1 5/8" closed slat pre-sieve in the machine. And typically we want to run that at around 10 millimeters in corn. And so what I will do then is I will calibrate this 4th notch to 10 millimeters. Now the sieve that I've got in this machine here is a corn slat sieve in the pre-sieve. That's available through parts. It's got the deep notch that goes down almost to the wire. With that sieve, you're able to run a tighter sieve setting, still get the capacity in corn, but it helps keep some of the cob out of the sample. So the catch with that is you got to run it tighter than what the book says. The book doesn't really have any settings in there. If you go to a mid-range operator's manual and you look at an upper corn slat sieve and you look at the pre-sieve setting there, that's about where you want to run it. So typically, instead of 10, I'm running around 6 millimeters with this corn slat pre-sieve. So I'm calibrating my, my 4th notch to that 6 millimeters with the corn slat pre-sieve in there. If you've got the closed slat 1 5/8, you'd calibrate it to 10. But the way we're going to do that is we're going to loosen this bottom bolt off down here. If you look close, you can see that's on a slotted hole there. So I've got it in the 4th notch, and now what I'm going to do is I'm going to push it closed. Now I'm going to take my sieve gauge and I'm going to go up front. Ideally, if you got 2 people, you can have one that sits here and kind of slides it back open. I'm going to open it a little bit. I'll run up and check it with my sieve gauge, and then I'll come back and adjust it some more if I need to. So I'm at about 4 millimeters. I need to open that up a little bit more to get to my 6. So now I'm at my 6 millimeters, which is going to be about where I need to run with this machine in corn. So now I will lock it back down. And once again, if you're using the 1 5/8 closed slat, you're going to adjust it with it in the 4th notch to that 10 millimeters. But the important thing to do as you're making that adjustment, loosen this off, push it all the way forward, slide it back, just like the calibration on the other sieves. You want to open it up to that setting for your calibration. Check it with your sieve gauge, lock it back down. So now those numbers mean something to me. I'm at 6 here with this one for my corn, and I'll typically close down 1 or 2 notches when I do soybeans.